trying to unify the party. How do you bring these Nikki Haley voters, some of whom voted for you in 2020 but say they don't want to now?
Oh, they'll all vote for me.
How do you bring them back into the
They're going to all vote for me again. They're going to all vote for me again, everybody.
Donald Trump and President Biden clinching their respective primaries in a key battleground state. Biden took more than 90% of the Democratic vote in Pennsylvania's closed primary. But the surprise of the night came from the GOP race. There were still more than 100,000 voters casting their ballots for former candidate Nikki Haley. Now, you might remember she suspended her campaign last month after ballots had been printed.
Speaking of a protest vote, Stuart, Nikki Haley received 16% of the vote yesterday. About 150,000 people voted for her. And that isn't interesting because she dropped out about 2 months ago. So, look, if former President Trump is going to win Pennsylvania, he's going to have to coalesce the Republican Party here in Pennsylvania.
But wait, he said he didn't need votes from Nikki Haley voters, remember? In fact, he said it wouldn't really damage him at all.
They're going to all vote for me again, everybody, and I'm not sure we need too many.
So could it be, and stick with me here a moment, folks, that Donald Trump is fond of porky pies as well as lullabies in the courtroom?
Got him. We got him.
Amidst his courtroom woes this week, there was more bad news for Donald Trump. No, not the fact that his pick-me lawyer, Alina Habba, basically admitted defeat on Newsmax during what has to be one of the sleaziest interviews I have ever seen. And I've seen a few.
And as we say goodnight, if I could see that footage of Alina Habba speaking to the media in that courthouse, and when you come out there and you speak like you do, and quite frankly, I mean, the whole package, it really is something. Even the fake news, they called it astoundingly confident. There's something kind of special happening in those moments. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. I don't know if it feels different, but it's pretty damned impressive. And it seems to me like you're moving the needle in who knows what kind of ways.
Yeah,
Do you know what I'm talking
so,
about?
Greg.
Go ahead.
I really do, and I appreciate you saying that.
No, not the fact that none of his supporters turned up to his court visit, despite the fact that he had encouraged them to do so. Maybe they've learned their lesson after what happened the last time he encouraged his voters to do something. And then he abandoned them. But in what would be a reality check for any candidate not cocooned off from reality, recent primary results were so bad for Donald Trump that even Fox News, and get this, Newsmax, of all places, couldn't help but report on it and express some concern.
Look at that. Former President Trump easily won the state's primary. However, Nikki Haley, who you know suspended her campaign, still got more than 156,000 votes, nearly 17% among Republicans.
But clearly Trump has still got a Nikki Haley problem. Why hasn't Haley come out and actually endorsed Trump yet?
I would disagree with you on that, Rob. I don't think there's a alleged Nikki Haley problem. Again, a lot of these votes...
I'm just basing that on what we saw in Pennsylvania. 17% is a significant percentage of the vote in Pennsylvania for Nikki Haley.
But there are millions and millions of people, more than 100 million people, who will vote on November the 5th, and they will determine the election. And there's 6 months to go. Yeah. And there's a great case to be made about why they should vote for Donald Trump over Joe Biden. And the story that the media, unfortunately, is not covering is that uncontested vote in Pennsylvania. The fact that Joe Biden's base is the one that is actually very fractured. You see these Palestinian protests erupting on college campuses across the country. Jewish Americans are rightfully upset with how Biden has handled the war in Israel. You see African Americans moving towards President Trump by historic margins that we've never seen for a Republican candidate before. He is winning Hispanic Americans right
Caroline,
now.
just quickly, would Trump accept, because 80,000 votes is what decided Biden and Trump in Pennsylvania in 2020. It was 46,000 with Hillary Clinton in 2016. Would Trump accept the Haley endorsement? Just about 15 seconds.
I'll let the president speak on that himself. But our team is focused on bringing in voters of all stripes, Republicans, independents, disillusioned Democrats. If you want to make this country great again, stop Joe Biden's destruction, then you have to join Team Trump.
So let's dig into this a little deeper, shall we? Despite Donald Trump confidently shrugging off questions in the past regarding whether or not he would need Nikki Haley voters in order to win the election in November, a sizable share of Republican primary voters in Pennsylvania cast a ballot for the former UN ambassador on Tuesday, despite President Trump clinching his party's nomination over a month ago. So I know what you're wondering. well, why does that matter if he still won the primary? Well, Pennsylvania could ultimately decide the election in November, and it's a state that President Biden won by about 80,500 votes in 2020. Haley received at least 147,000 votes in Pennsylvania's GOP primary on Tuesday, with over 90% of the vote counted. And keep in mind, this is someone who suspended her presidential campaign well over a month ago, but yet she still received 17% of the vote.
As was expected, Trump and Biden won their presidential primaries in Pennsylvania last night. It's a key battleground state. This has to be worrying for Trump. Nikki Haley, who dropped out a month ago, got more than 155,000 votes, all from Republican voters. Just to put that into perspective, Trump lost the state to Biden by 81,000 votes, and yet still Tootie Roosevelt took a victory lap today, posted a poll, claimed he crushed Biden in Pennsylvania. Look at this graph. Somehow, 1 point is the difference between Shaquille O'Neal and Kevin Hart there. Also, Trump got about 200,000 fewer votes than Biden did in Pennsylvania last night.
So, I mean, yeah, Trump dominated the primary still, but in key swing states such as Wisconsin and Arizona, more than 1/5 of GOP primary voters cast a ballot for a non-Trump candidate during the state's primary contests. And this comes as most staunch Biden critics were voicing their concern that it would be the current president who would face a split within his party with the way that he's handled the conflict between Israel and Palestine. But even with that, he fended off the effort better than Donald Trump. And the Pennsylvania primary comes as the presidential election has entered into a new phase for Trump, who, as we know, is facing 34 felony counts in his New York trial, which means that most of his campaigning these days is coming from the courtroom hallways, in which he complains more so about the temperature of the courtroom than anything else.
So we have another day of court in a freezing courthouse. It's very cold in there, on purpose, I believe. They don't seem to be able to get the temperature up. It shouldn't be that complicated, but we have a freezing courthouse, and that's fine. That's just fine. Let them keep handing it out. There's a rigged trial. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
And as was explained by a sole voice of sanity on Fox News at 5 during a segment last week, moderate voters are not thrilled that the GOP candidate is having to campaign from a courtroom and brings all that noise with him.
I think Democrats, a lot of us agree with that. That if you look at the 91 criminal indictments Donald Trump is facing, I would much rather the first case be about efforts to overturn an election, right? Or the classified documents case, when he attempted to obstruct justice and destroy classified documents. A lot of Democrats will tell you this isn't the perfect one, but he actually is. I mean, Jesse, to your point, he is given special treatment. He is under a gag order that any other defendant, if they violated repeatedly on Twitter, online, would have already been thrown in jail. He is under court orders that any other defendant would have, and he is violating them every single day. And so, Kayleigh, I agree with you that he is getting a lot of the press attention. The open question in my mind is whether that will be positive for him. When all of the attention is about paying off a porn star, right? It's about all of the criminal indictments, him lying, him acting chaotic. I don't know at the end of the day if that press attention will help him when we know independent voters particularly don't like that chaos. They don't like the lying. They don't like the moral shortcomings and failures of Donald Trump. I actually think that that press attention might hurt him and help Biden in the end.
And with all that, let's just keep in mind that since 2016, Donald Trump and Republicans alike who have fully embraced the MAGA agenda have lost every single election in which their extreme policy positions, such as their views on abortion, have been on the ballot. But yet, if you were to ask him, he is still convinced that he doesn't need anybody outside of his rabid cult following to win the election in November. But then again, he still thinks he won in 2020.
It's disgusting. I mean, every bit of it's disgusting. You know, to sit there and mock my husband for not being with me on the presidential trail because he is deployed and serving our country. You mock one veteran, you're mocking all veterans. But this is a pattern, Dana. He's done this over and over again. Whether he went and calls military members suckers, whether he was at Arlington Cemetery saying what was in it for them, why would they do this? The problem with Trump is he's never been anywhere near a uniform. He apparently had had some sort of foot reason that he says he couldn't do that. But the reality is the closest he's come to harm's way is a golf ball hitting him on a golf cart. These men and women sacrifice for us every day. They're willing to shed blood. That's the values that made this country great. And anybody that excuses what he continues to say against the military is hugely mistaken, because this is going to be the president of the United States. We have to start doing more to help our veterans. They don't get the due they deserve. They don't get taken care of. We've got to start watching out for them. You can't do that if you've got a commander-in-chief that disrespects them. Those are fighting words for the military. In South Carolina, we love our military. We fight hard for them. We want to make their lives better. We don't mock them. And what he did is just disgusting. And anybody that agrees with it or says it's okay is disgusting along with them.
Enough! Send him to the big house, not the White House. Get the new exclusive tees, mugs, and stickers right now at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.